What's going on, YouTube? Warstorm here, coming at you guys another video today. Today I'll be discussing the link summoning is a mistake, and I have my good old friend Akatrios here to discuss it today. Say hello to everybody.
Hi guys, Akatrios here.
So Akatrios is pretty familiar with Crystron's and the new Link monster, but I kind of going to talk to him about this topic because something I've been thinking a lot lately about link summoning. I just think that the whole mechanic in general is going to eventually be a problem, and just, I know I'm not like I always been the first person to say like I defended pendulums the entire era, but like I feel like link summoning, while I don't dislike it, I think we're going to see a crazy era in terms of like just how crazy it gets on the ban list. What do you think?
Well, in my opinion, the biggest problem is actually coming out in the Link Reigns pack. Right now we have strong Link monsters already, like Firewall Dragon and Trigate Wizard, and like Barlow Dragon as a really good boss monster, and upcoming Scalded in Extreme Force as a really formidable plus generator and combo extender. However, those are all Link 4s and are at least halfway resource intense to summon, unless you have Gofu with Needle Fiber with Link Reigns pack. Which leads me to my biggest problem, which is that Link Reigns pack releases links that are way too ahead of their time. Like Firewall Dragon, Borreload, and Scalded, and let's say Trigate as well, are pretty okay for their timing. However, if we look at the new Link monsters, like especially Needle Fiber, and I'm the Crystron player, and I should not be complaining about the Crystron card so much, but Needle Fiber is, for example, way too generic, as it can summon any tuner from a deck that is level 3 or lower. That also means every like good hand trap, like you can summon Ghost Reaper, Ghost Ogre, and Ash Blossom with it if you wanted to, and try to get that back on the hand with Firewall Dragon or something. And those are combos that exist, sadly, and Needle Fiber just makes you gives you that strong combos, basically. It is a pretty strong combo extender. It can make you a one-card Firewall Dragon or Scaldy even with Gofu in your hand. And it's pretty broken in that sense. I mean, we also had like FTK combos already with Cluster Amaryllis using Aromaseraphy Jasmine. And we've got the new Heavy Metal Foes Electrum that gives Pendulum Magicians a really strong boost and just makes destroying Baobaboon even stronger and Rescue Hamster actually playable. Well, that's the most confusing part of it all. So yeah, I think that mostly the Link Reigns pack is bringing us links that are too ahead of their time, as in too consistent in some degree, like Needle Fiber and Jasmine.
Yeah, and then the thing is, we don't have all of the pack completely revealed yet. I feel like this is kind of like an example of like Konami's card design, in that, and we were talking about this earlier before we started, which is that Konami is either they make broken cards or they make like really just not very kind of like decent but not good enough cards. They don't really have a whole lot of counterbalance in terms of like a good card that has proper restrictions on it. There's very few cards I look at. I'm like one of the few I looked at of all the Link monsters we've gotten so far is Akashic Magician is a great example, because yes, it's non-targeting removal, but if you put it in the wrong zone, it can bounce your own things, which you don't really want in every case. And the mill effect takes a lot of setup, and you have to summon it to the exact right zone. And I feel like it's pretty generic, but it's also got that once per turn, which I feel like Konami is neglecting that once per turn clause on a lot of cards nowadays, and Draconic Diagram is a great example, but I feel like we're past that card being relevant anymore, at least the way I see it. So it's like, I feel like we haven't seen all the Link monsters yet. You look at Jasmine. Jasmine enables, like, one Mathematician means just starts an entire ball rolling of combos, because you can send Dandelion to the grave. And the thing is, these combos make cards like Rescue Ferret, for example, are really, really good, because now you have one card set up for it, and if you get your combos rolling, Rescue Ferret, like Shirobini's another card that like is insanely generic and easy to summon. And we still have a lot of Link monsters on the way. I think there was an Invoked one that was rumored to be released. There's a Zephyr one on the way as well. But I feel like the Link era is going to see so many bans. It's going to be insane what the list is going to look like in, say, 1 to 2 years. And we've already seen that to an extent, have we not? I mean, the last ban list in September, we had 7 or 8 cards placed on the ban section. I mean, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but we saw like 8 or 9 cards placed on the ban section, and I can't remember the last list that's happened. I don't know about you, but it hasn't happened in a very, very long time, at least from what I can recall. I just think that, like, we're going to see, I mean, I've had this trouble because I'm hosting a tournament early next year, and I'm having to create a ban list that hits all these FTKs, and I keep coming back to the fact that, like, there's only so many cards I can hit. I'm going to miss something. And that's the whole thing I think about the Link era, is we're going to see, like, the ban list is going to look insane in the next couple of years. But I don't know.
I think we can totally agree on that, because, well, especially with, like, I'm really nitpicking out Link Reigns Pack, but we both basically agree that Link Reigns Pack really brings the strong things to the table, like Electrum, Jasmine, Needle Fiber, or what you just said, Cherubini, which is also a very great card.
It makes Burning Abyss meta
again. I really like that card in terms of design in some degree, because it's at least limited to level 3s, which is a little bit of restriction. However, you can still use it with a Predator Plant combo, which also gives you a Brilliant Fusion and all that, and it ties in well with the Jasmine engine. So that's a thing.
I also like the Cherubini, like, the fact that it's a Burning Abyss name is not really to be underestimated, because if you look at the card in general, if you look at Cherubini, like, the fact that it makes Fire Lake live. Fire Lake is good again because Cherubini exists. Now on top of that, you have a way to keep your Burning Abysses from suiciding themselves, and you don't have to have what's the card's name? You don't have to have a Fiendish Rhino out anymore. It helps that deck. I would Burning Abyss is already creeping up because the deck has a lot of synergy with trap cards. In general, you can play a lot of traps that don't normally slide into most decks. And sure, and I feel like we will see a lot of Burning Abyss lists running around post Link Reigns packs. The deck is not bad. It's just Link's really slowed down a lot of the combos. I'm not saying it'll be meta again. Like it'll be like, I feel like it'll be a very, very good deck, and it'll be running around the top tables come Link Reigns. But the biggest thing is that I like a lot of these Link monsters. Like, I think this is what a lot of us asked Konami to do, was to, a lot of people asked Konami, we wanted more generic Link monsters to make our older decks function like they used to. So I think that's something that
But then again, they are going a little bit over the top in terms of their design, and they are really inconsistent in their design. Like, we looked at 4 of these Link Reigns pack monsters. If you look at things like Perpetual King Archfiend, Gladiator Beast Dragacious, or like Heretic Seal of the Celestial Spheres, there is such an unbalance in that sense. Like, Electrum, Jasmine, Cherubini, and Needle Fiber are really good combo extenders and combo starters for many decks. Like, I know 0 decks from the top of my head that run tuners and will not run Crystal Needle Fiber at this point in time. But I know many machine decks that would go without Clifford Genius. I know enough Dragon decks that could go without Heretic Seal of the Celestial Spheres, although that card is still a pretty good boost to Rocket, which is interesting. And Perpetual King Archfiend is basically, well, you can mill a Fiend, but you have to pay life points for that. And the life points has to be equal to either the attack or the defense. So most likely you want to just pay 1,000 to drop a Eris, so the Eris can add you back a thing. And that card is basically just there to have a Link monster for Fiends, because its effect is going to matter not a lot, for example. But we have, on the other hand, these big-ins.
You look at DDDs, for example, like people are talking about the Link, and the problem is, well, first off, the DDDs they don't pay life points, so like you're not going to be able to proc anything with it. The other problem, like its arrows aren't bad for DDDs because you can easily go into it, but there's no reason to go into it if you can make needle fiber, because needle fiber literally like it makes DDD 3-card combos a thing again without having to like rely on, without having to rely, especially with Gofu back at 1. I feel like once Big Genghis does finally get its TCG release, I feel like the deck will be good. It may not be, top tier, but it'll be more than playable again with Needle Fiber, because Needle Fiber literally makes something like DD Ghost, which isn't a fantastic card. It makes it good because you can grab it straight from the deck and then it starts combos. And I feel like that's the whole, we aren't really at the end of the Link Air Reigns pack either. Because we're going to see more than I think I just saw a list of a lot of the other decks that are getting support. I know that Invoked, interestingly, is supposed to receive a Link Monster, which wouldn't be surprising. Invoked is kind of like very bottlenecked in Link format. It's good, but the problem with Invoked is that like you can't really do anything other than sit on a Merkaba nowadays, right? So
yeah, that's pretty true. And I'm also really curious actually about the invoked Link Monster, because I cannot really imagine how they are going to make a Link Monster for Invoked that is not basically just a hero support card.
Yeah,
because
I'm curious
can just
how they would build. Like, does it need Alistair to summon? Like, it seems like a weird to give a deck that is literally entirely. I mean, it makes sense. The deck, as an engine, it needs it because it isn't very playable. Like, Merkaba's a fantastic card, but Invoked can't really do the crazy any of the combos they used to do, because the whole thing is like, if I don't have a Link Monster, I have to leave my Merkaba out and I can't really do anything with it. Because that's the whole that's a consistent issue that But I do think that and it's going to be interesting to see the next wave, because we've only seen the first wave of leaks with the deck, and we don't really even know, but I feel like we're going to see the amount of bans we're going to see on the ban list is going to be absolutely insane. I think a lot of these older cards like Grinder Golem, Amaryllis, possibly Amazoness Archer, a lot of these old burn cards are all going to be placed on the ban list. TCG Konami especially is picky about FTKs. They will just smash them before they even have a chance to see the light of day. If we see from what I was told by friends of mine, they literally told me Konami banned Augusto Emerald because they brought Gateway off the list. That's literally the only reason it was banned. The Konami fears that them on the TCG side, at least, they fear them that much that they will just literally place something on the list just to solve the problem.
The biggest problem of that, though, is that we just hit the combo enablers. That still limits their design aspects, because they can't make more combo enablers for these FTKs. Then proceed to make cards like Aromaseraphy Jasmine that make and Kyrios, because you also need Kyrios for that combo. But that then again makes Cluster Amaryllis FTKs playable again, instead of just flat out banning the cards that actually do the FTKs, that actually burn the opponent to death. And I'm sitting here thinking, my best friend, who's also judging the regional with me tomorrow, he always plays Amazoness Archer FTKs, and he plays every single kind of Amazoness Archer FTK because he doesn't even care about any ban list, because no ban list ever will hit Amazoness Archer, although she does all the FTKs.
That's the whole thing, I feel like, is that's the best thing for Konami to do, is just place all of these old cards on, the cannon, both the cannon soldiers, put them on the ban list, put Archer. It's an easy solution. It's not Link Monsters. Link Monsters just accelerated these things to becoming a problem, We all know Firewall Dragon's a powerful card, but, it doesn't really snowball into anything uberly crazy, without a lot of these, it being able to bounce itself is a thing, but these old burn cards, I forget what's the name, Summon Sorcerer or something, it's very old dark spellcaster that burns. Cards like that just aren't really playable under normal circumstances. I feel like if you just place the problematic cards on the ban list, and Grinder Golem's a whole different can of worms, because it's one of the most it's one of the most, like, granted, like, it's not an issue in the TCG right now, but, like, your fact that you can search Grinder Golem with Dark Magical Door, Contract Door, I think it's called, makes Grinder Golem, and Links have turned Grinder Golem from kind of just a stupid, like, gimmick card to a card that's likely going to end up on the ban list at some point. And I feel like that's going to happen with a lot of different cards, but this is kind of like a whole double-edged sword with the Link mechanic in general, because you made Link monsters so generic. Every deck kind of has to play them, and if you make Link monsters that are too good, it's going to cause problematic issues like this, and that's something that is going to be an issue, I think, in the Link era going forward. I don't think we've seen the end of, lists like the September list, where we see entire, crazy things hit, just straight up going to 1. I think we're going to see a lot of cards placed on the ban list. But
I actually think so too, yeah.
But
I don't think there's much more to, like, explain to that, because we see on which level we are actually getting on now with the Link monsters coming. And it's not inherently the Link monsters' fault for that, but the fact that they can be abused so easily is also on cards that have been, like, made in the past and had a design flaw coming with them. Like Link Karibo now, where when Link Karibo comes out, we can definitely expect Level Leader to get banned. Simply because, like, one Infernoid monster, like one high-level Infernoid monster, and Level Leader is basically an extra link at this point.
Yeah, and we were that's the thing. I'm surprised that Konami, like, I understand why they left Level Leader alone, because, like, Dark Synchro wasn't really a thing on the TCG, because at least for a little bit I would gathered about the whole thing is that Dimensional Barrier came out a little bit after, and it basically checked the Dark Synchro to an extent. The deck really never did anything over here, so Konami really never hit the deck over here. So, like, I feel like the same way. I feel like Konami feels the same way about it in general. But I feel like the best solution from Konami's perspective, because they're going to avoid hitting Firewall Dragon if they can help it. So I feel like what Konami's going to do is just place a bunch of cards on the ban list. Like a bunch of these old burn cards will just be tossed on the list and it'll be done. I think we'll see. It's very possible a lot of these Link monsters will go to 1. I don't know if part of me feels like Firewall Dragon's on a timer. I don't think it'll get banned, but it's definitely not something that can stay at 3 forever. I just feel like some of the loops that it causes are very problematic. The fact it can bounce itself is a problem. And I feel like eventually, like, Firewall will probably be placed at 1. It can't be banned. It won't be banned. But it's going to be put to 1 eventually. I feel like there'll be too many just stupid combos with it. But at least,
like, one Firewall Dragon never was a problem, but multiple Firewall Dragons are pretty nasty.
Yes. But I also think the Link Vrains era Vrains pack is going to bring a lot of good to the game, because you're going to see a ton of diversity. But I also think there's no way you can bring some of these Link monsters and not hit some decks on the ban list. I don't think having Pendulum Magicians running around, like, I love the deck, it's my favorite deck, but I don't think it's a good idea to have Astrograph, Sorcerer, Joker, and all these cards at 3, and also have Electrum existing at the same time. I just feel like it's going to be really, especially with Wavering at 3, I feel like I feel like I would not, as much as I'd love to see Electrum and Needle Fiber and having a crazy combos, I just feel like it's something that can't exist. Like, Pendulum Magicians are too consistent, the deck's too cheap. I mean, I don't feel like it's going to be around at the same time by the time we get Link Vrains sometime next year. But kind of to summarize, I do think that it's going to be interesting, because in my opinion, I think Link summoning, while I don't think it was a total mistake, I do enjoy it. I think it is fun. While it may not have accomplished its goal of quote-unquote slowing the game down, maybe that wasn't the goal in the first place, but if anything, at least I feel like it makes placing I like that it makes placing cards relevant where they're placed. And that's something I really think is cool about it. But I also think that it's going to be problematic because every deck, because of all the different like crazy combos people are going to come up with it. Do you have anything else to say before we go and shut it down?
Actually, I think the most important things are said, so we can basically shut it down.
Alrighty, guys, about comes the end of the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think of Link summoning. Do you guys enjoy it? Do you think that some of these crazy combos could get out of hand in the future? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And as always, I thank you guys for watching. It's Orstorm signing out.